Hello TEFL students. In this video, I want to give you 2 tips for helping to brainstorm for practice activities for your classes.
Tip number 1 would be to ask yourself if you've included all 4 skills. Do you have a little bit of reading, a little bit of writing, a little bit of speaking? And while we're on that topic, you might want to think about if you've gone beyond that standard worksheet. There's many ways to address those 4 skills. Worksheets is just one of them.
Some other tasks that a lot of my students have found, or my TEFL trainees have found useful, is rather than sticking at the practice would be to look ahead and build backwards. So looking ahead to that production task and building practices based on what they feel the students will need in order to be successful in that production task. So I'm going to give you 3 sample production tasks and then work backwards to give you example practices that could match up to that production task. Production number 1 would be role playing. Let's imagine that our chapter deals with getting a job, and I want my students to do a role play on a job interview. I'm going to pair them up, and they have to do a role play. Employer interviewing a potential employee. And so in order to do that, I need to do lots of practices to helpfully prepare them for that final speaking role play task. One practice that I could do, among other practices, would be, for instance, having the students write out questions that the employer could ask the employee. Because it's a practice activity, I'm going to put some criteria on there. Maybe I'm looking for specific vocabulary, maybe I'm looking for specific grammar, or both, and we're going to go over them as a class to help. I'm going to give them feedback on those questions. That would be an example of a practice that will hopefully help them prepare for that production. Production example number 2 would be, for example, maybe I want my students to write an email complaining to their landlord about some problem in their house. For some reason that goes with my chapter, or that is the task that we feel is needed in the class. In order to have them be able to write their own creative email complaining to their landlord, we need to have a lot of practices to help prepare us for that.
One practice activity we could do with the students is have them read a model email of someone who wrote a complaint to their landlord. We can have students answer comprehension questions on the text or do other types of reading activities. We'll learn more about what reading activities there are to do in future chapters.
It's important when you do the read to write activities that sometimes you take that reading away so that you eliminate any unnecessary copying in their production task. So we could do a reading of the model to write for our production task. And the third one would be imagining we want our lower level students to describe to their partner in a little paired presentation their morning routine. So we're working up to that goal.
One example practice activity I could use would be a listening. I could prepare a paragraph about my own morning routine and cut out some corresponding pictures. I could then read that morning routine to students and try to have them sort out the events in the correct order that they hear them. I could do it again perhaps and have them match them to corresponding times, for example.
That will be one activity. After that, maybe I'll have them try to write sentences based on those pictures where they describe those pictures. So helping my lower level students prepare for their morning routine, I have a listening activity and a structured writing activity as 2 of perhaps maybe 4 practice tasks that I have them do. So my goal for this little lecture was to hopefully show you that thinking about all skills will help you perhaps brainstorm more practice activities, and perhaps maybe looking ahead at that production activity in the end of your lesson may also help you to brainstorm activities for your practice. Thanks. I hope you got something out of that.